Hey guys, Rockin' Robo here with another Dragon Ball Xenoverse to Hero Colosseum video. So, as the title says, this is all about O1 skills. Now this was because a subscriber called, let's just find his name, there he is, RJ Carabello asked, could you please cover how to beat O1 skills if you don't have ultimate gauge lowering skills? So, basically saying, how can I be O1 skillers when I don't have these, wherever they are? There you go. If you don't have these, how do you beat an O1 skiller? Well, there's the obvious way, which is obviously with this man right here, Ultra Instinct Goku, as he reduces your ultimate, your enemy's ultimate attack by 80%. Now, like I say, he's the obvious one, and sorry. He's getting into most of my decks at the minute. I'm usually using the health one, mainly because I only use the damage one if I'm looking for something to knock something out every turn, and I'm not. I'm looking for something to come in, tank an ultimate, and make sure I don't die from it, which is why I'm using that one. You've also got Jiren, who could always step in for that, because obviously he adds some defense to your master. Especially, I mean, you could go with O1 skills on him as well to try and counter your opponent, but they're usually going to be running that future Gohan, and that's gonna beat you every time in speed. I don't think anything can beat future Gohan in speed. You've also got characters like little Janemba here. Lowers your opponent's ultimate gauge by 50% at the end of the turn, providing he lives. Now, Janemba's a very overlooked figure. I understand he's got low health, his defense isn't great, but he does nigh on 6,000 damage. I mean, that's just insane for a super rare that has that much posing skill going for him. Obviously, your own ultimate gauge is another countering, but when most people are running future Gohans at the minute, that's not really going to do you that well. Your other options, reducing the speed of their characters using ones like Videl on there to lower their speed, and then going in with fast figures. So if you went with Videl, future Gohan, and future Trunks in his other form, I think if you went with those three, you'd have a chance, maybe, especially with speed up skills on them. I think you'd have a chance, because that's 6'5", 6'3", that's 13. You got about 17 with future, with Videl. Plus, if you get an extra 1,500 off of speed ups, you're talking over 18,000 speed. With her trigger alluring visage kicking in, yeah, you could probably outspeed if you ran those three. But, I mean, it's a case of in those games you've got to have those three still alive, so it's taking a risk going that way. Other counters as well, you can run high health characters, 'cause some of them can actually survive against certain O1 skill users. Especially, I mean, if you've got Goku here, he can be quite integral to it. But a new one I came up with, it was actually something I was just looking up to try out Android 18. And I just thought a person who was doing the, I think you saw the video, it was the one where he had two Gohans, and he had some other Ultimate Raging stuff, and he had his Jiren. So I thought, how could I counter those decks specifically? And the answer came quite clear. So you run, first of all, you run Android 18. We'll take the skills off, they don't matter right now. And obviously, you know, Sultry Swim, you place your own trigger swift 500 to your speed, repeatable, and prevent all opponents from switching places until the next turn. Once only. So, what she can do, she freezes your opponent's figures in place. Now, if your opponent is looking for O1 skills, that is pretty damn crucial. Especially if you see them running the 2 Gohan build. So, she was the first part of that, but I thought, how can I really take that a bit further? Because, obviously, I don't want to kill, if I'm going to be countering the 2 Gohans, I don't want to be killing either of them and letting my opponent put his other figures down. So, the next idea was, because obviously Gohan will sit in the, as adjacent to us, the front middle, and on the front right. So we've got to stack our left side to counter him. So you look through your figures that pose in the left. So you've got Future Trunks here, you've got Gohan, you've got Godku, you've got a few others as well. Jiren, for example. But I would personally go with the Godku. Now, that's because look at his damage, 7,800. He's not going to have anything standing in front of him. Also, the Android 18 is debatable which one you could go for, because you could go for this one. I'm not sure what her stats will look like fully leveled up. I know she'll be a lot tankier, but that's not really what she's there for in this deck. But Goku in this deck, he's there, obviously, for the damage, because look, he's got 7,800 off the bat, plus 700 to his attack, repeatable, and 5% to his damage dealt on a trigger square. In the back row, on that back left, he's going up to 8,500 on the first turn. Also, you'd remove these character skills because you wouldn't use these. The rest of the deck doesn't matter for right now. What you'd want to do next is use something I never thought I'd actually end up using. So, 2 skills. I have to give credit, I've been seeing some other people doing it recently. I think I saw Mug the Dude doing it. But in this deck, the O2 skills are what would actually boost this for you quite significantly. So, you'd want the attack up one, and we'll just do the speed one for the sake of it. So you get plus 350 to your attack, defense, and speed. So obviously, with the Goku boosting her as well, she's basically at 6,000 attack by this point, which then gets times by 1.2, which is 20%, which is an extra 1,200 onto her. So she's hitting for 7,200. Now imagine Goku with that same boost. Holy God, he's going to be hitting for over 10,000. Combine that with her, you're talking 17,000 damage. Plus any counterattacks you get if you run these both down the left side against your opponent who's trying his Ball 01 skills. That is pretty insane. Next turn doesn't really matter at that point, because the thing is, you've won. Because they've got their 2 Gohans frozen in place, because you haven't hit them, so they haven't died. They've hit you, but that don't matter because it's 2 Gohans, so they're not going to do too much damage to you. It really doesn't matter what they do. They cannot do anything to stop you now, because you've got Goku and you've got Android 18 there. So you might as well just leave it as it is, because the most your opponent can do is stick one figure down in front of you. And with another boost to her attack from Goku, it's very likely that Android 18 here would kill off whatever she's against, leaving Goku free to hit his health directly. The other, because what speed has this? She'll go just above Goku, unfortunately. No, you could do it the other way around, you see, and if Goku was faster, he would wipe out whatever's in front, but no, but that would be how you'd counter the Gohan 01 skill decks, and I think that would pretty much be unstoppable, because what could they put on the right flank to stop you? An Ultra Instinct Goku would have the health. It would have to be something with extremely high health, or maybe a Vados for the defense, but when you're running against somebody who's going to be running these Gohan figures, they're going to have 2 of them. They're going to have that 01 skiller, which is either a Jiren or a future Gohan, and then they're probably going to have 2 more figures that are there solely to raise the ultimate gauge. So they really can't counter you. And let's say, hypothetically, they have to have what? Because Gohan, they'll probably use this one. Gohan is slow, really. Now, unless they've got something insanely fast, like a future Gohan going down there, they're not going to outspeed you, in which case they're not going to have their Gohan ultimating, sort of their regular Gohan, because he'll be in the centre posing square where they can attack, so that's just an effective counter. With 2 figures, you can basically counter an entire style, or an entire deck, basically. Now, obviously, this won't work against every deck, but if you were looking to run a deck solely comprised of things stopping 01 skillers, then that's 2 pretty hefty examples. Things you can bring that in later in the match as well. I would say, if you're not against the Gohan ones, I would probably actually use this Android 18. Simply because she's a lot tankier. So she can actually take some hits and hit back. So that's the only change I would make. Now, obviously, I said before the Janemba. I'm a big fan of Janemba. I've done videos on him. I've made a deck around him. He is an awesome figure. Underrated, and mostly ignored because he's a super rare. People ignore the super rare figures, and you really, really shouldn't. They are awesome figures, some of them. And 10% deals damage, minus 10% damage dealt by all opponents, and minus 15% to the ultimate gauge. He is just amazing, and he is such a good counter. He's another good counter to the Gohan ones, or any ultimate gauge raisers, because you've got Gohan, you've got Broly, I believe, who does it, yeah. Gotenks, who does. There's a lot of figures that actually raise your ultimate gauge, but not that many that do anything to counter it. Golden Frieza is another counter to your O1 skills. Simply because you put him down on his own, he can't die. The thing is, you've got to make sure your health is high enough so that they can ultimate you and you don't die. He's actually one of my main O1 skill users at the minute to counter the opponent's ones. So you've got quite a bit of countering there to your O1 skills in that little series of figures. What would be the last main figure I would use to counter an O1 skiller? It's hard to say, there's quite a few good choices. The Android 17 is not a bad choice either. Place on the trigger square, 350 to all allies, and minus 50% damage taken by your master once only. He is another decent example of somebody. You could actually bang the O1 skills onto him as well. He wouldn't be as fast, but he would certainly hit hard enough to knock anything out, especially sticking him on that back row trigger square. So that's sort of like the first things that came to mind when I thought of things that would counter your enemy raising their ultimate gauge and trying to beat you that way. Now, obviously, I mean, Android 17, my Android 17 shows no subtlety there at all. He's there to make sure you're not ultimating, which is why he sits in the back row behind somebody all the time. I mean, yeah, sorry. There are plenty of other options you could go for. I know that obviously this lady could certainly help out Vados. The Perfect Cell is another interesting option. Just because he is insanely fast. I think he has about 6,000 speed when you get him fully leveled up. Now, if you add the extra speed he gets from being on the field, he can be a very, very fast figure. Combining that with sort of the better future Gohan with his 6,300, you can outspeed an O1 skiller. It is possible. I mean, I know it's hard, especially when you see a guy who has got future Gohan with 10 points put all into his speed, so he has about 7,000. He has about 7,200 or something. It's ridiculous. So that can be pretty intimidating. Future Trunks can kind of do it. I don't know how the algorithm really works on the minus 30% to damage taken by your master. It doesn't really, because it doesn't seem to work as you'd think it would. By the way it words, it makes you just sound like you only take 30% damage to your master. So if your opponent was going to do 10,000 with his ultimate O1 skiller, you'd only take 7,000. But it doesn't seem to work like that at all. It seems like it does maybe a percentage of their starting damage, and then you just take the rest of it, because like I say, I mean, he'd be a pretty good counter if he did do the minus 30% of their damage, but it doesn't seem to work like that. I mean, I had him and Ultra Instinct Goku on the field once. It was just hilarious as they had the future Gohan ult and he did 2,000 damage. That was funny. I wish I could have seen their face. That usually leads to a rage quit, though. I don't know if there's much else in the meta at the minute, though, that can really counter O1 skills per se. Obviously, you've got your Piccolos who can raise your defense, but against O1 skills, that's not really going to save you a lot of the time. But those are what I would say are your best counters. You've kind of got Zamasu, not for the turn that he ults you, but for the next turn, because if you can survive through that, then he's going to heal 30% of your master's HP, so that's quite handy to have. But apart from that, it's a case of lowering your opponent's stats maybe with certain figures, or hoping that you can outspeed them and ult with your own. But like I say, those are the 5 things that first came to mind when I was thinking of how to beat an 0-1 skill. And like I say, those two are incredibly powerful together in that combination, because you can really control a good part of the game by doing that. You've literally got your opponent locked down, and they're probably going to only be able to move one figure next turn. So that's a pretty nasty combo. I'd remember that, and I'll probably use that in future decks that I show. But that's all for this time. Thank you for watching. I hope you've learned something about 0-1 skills and some of the things you can do to counter them. I have other deck building and advice videos on the way. The next deck building video that will be uploaded will be the defense one in a couple days' time. Quite pleased to be able to show off some more defensive style decks, including the original defense deck I actually went with when I started playing Hero Colosseum. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, subscribe if you enjoyed this and you want to see some more of my Hero Colosseum content, and I'll see you all next time.